So the Cincinnati Bengals in overtime knock off the Minnesota Vikings 27-24. And this is a fantasy football game of lament. And what I mean by that is we had a number of performances today from players that were probably benched in a majority, not a majority, but in a high number of leagues, despite these players having, relatively big time names. T. Higgins, Jordan Addison, both went off today. We're going to get into that. But if you're new to the channel, of course, hit that subscribe button. We're going to be doing wrap-ups of all three of these games today, and then tomorrow back with the live stream at 11:30. So we'll start with the Cincinnati Bengals because obviously they come out on top. And after a slow start, Jake Browning, again, was really good. Like, he looked like Joe Burrow, 29 of 42, 324, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He looks really, really good right now. And the concern was, obviously, with Burrow going out, would Browning be able to handle being the starting quarterback and be able to maintain the fantasy values of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? In 3 of the 4 games, he's been excellent. So, and this is a guy who was really, really experienced in college. He was like a 4-year starter. And that shows here. Like, he did this. It does not look like this game, the moment is too big for Jake Browning. He's doing a really good job. And as far as T. Higgins is concerned, 4 catches, 61 yards, 2 touchdowns. All right. So he had 8 targets. And this was a rare big game from T. Higgins. He hasn't really been delivering at all this season. He's been hurt again. Like, every year he misses time with injury, and every year he takes a secondary role to Jamar Chase. Now, in the past, that's been decent, wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 2 numbers. He hasn't even been that this year, but here's the key. So Jamar Chase, 4 catches for 64 yards, nondescript game, right? So only 4 targets, a little more than 10 PPR points. He injures his shoulder late in the game and is quickly ruled out. So, it's been a very frustrating season for Chase. Chase and Jefferson, the top 2 wide receivers of fantasy football, according to the draft, have both come way below their numbers and what their ADP would have shown. So now if Chase misses time next week in the fantasy semifinals and you make it through and you have T. Higgins, you're sitting on a really good asset right now. A really, really good asset. So, this is a big development here if you own T. Higgins. And that things can change so quickly in the fantasy football playoffs, and that's a prime example there. As far as the running backs, Chase Brown continued to play 7 carries for 23 yards. He caught 3 passes for 28 yards. Joe Mixon, 10 carries, 47 yards, and a score, 3 catches for 14 yards. So Mixon, it's like a 60-40 split now. I picked up Chase Brown before the game, just in case, as the handcuff running back strategy. And he looks like he's going to have, he's certainly a top insurance policy if you do own Mixon, or even in general, just to have him on your bench if you have the room. All right, now, as far as the Vikings are concerned, so Nick Mullins becomes a quarterback for Josh Dobbs, who's been horrible lately, and Mullins was really good himself. Like, both quarterbacks balled out, 26 of 33, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns, did throw 2 interceptions. That was a little bit of an issue, ran for 10 yards, but Mullins was decisive. He was accurate, and he lifted everybody up. Justin Jefferson, 7 catches, 84 yards. It was a quiet first half, and you were hoping, you were thinking, oh gosh, Mullins is not going to target, not going to be able to get the ball to Jefferson, but he did in the second half. But the biggest shocker, Jordan Addison, 6 catches, 111 yards, 2 scores, and most people probably had him on the bench. Maybe not most people, but the majority, a good deal. Let's say that. A good number of Addison owners probably had him on the bench because of Nick Mullins being in there, the unknown, and Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson. And Hawkinson, 6 for 63, not bad for him either. All 3 guys put forth decent fantasy outings. The thinking was, and I was right along with that, Jefferson, Hawkinson, clear top 2 option. Then is there going to be enough for Addison? So, I didn't bench. I don't have Jordan Addison, but that's how I would have played it, and he was huge in this game. And so, and that's the thing too. When a new quarterback comes in, maybe he already has a built-in rapport with somebody with Addison. Mullins and Addison seem like they have a rapport, but we wouldn't know that, right? And we've seen that before in many other instances. Like Jacoby Myers with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? In the first half of the season. Aiden O'Connell comes in, it's back to Devontae Adams. But here's the big thing. Ty Chandler could be a major league winner, filling in for Alexander Madison today. 23 carries, workhorse numbers. Only ceded 1 carry to Kenny Nwagnu. 23 carries, 132 yards, and a score, and 3 catches for 25 yards. So 20 plus PPR points. Just a huge day for Ty Chandler, who had, instant speed, instant acceleration, looked really, really good. And if you picked him up, if you smartly picked him up this week, and Madison misses next week, you play Ty Chandler. Absolutely 100%. And if you can get a workhorse back like this in the fantasy playoffs, a guy who catches the ball as well, like, that's big. So, that could be a potentially really big development there. All right, guys, I'm going to be back again if there's any injuries in this next game. Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, also the wrap up after that. Stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button.